Boxing King Media in association with boxer Dominic Ingle. Just want to get your opinion on a couple of fights that have been announced recently. We're going to start with Joshua BUATSI, Dan AZEEZ. We talk a lot about the heavyweight game, but there's so many good domestic fights happening as well. And just want to get your thoughts on the actual fight in itself, because the interesting backstory is that both have been friends, they've sparred thousands of rounds together, and they've both kind of told me before in the past that they never fight each other, but they now are. So just your comments on the fact that two friends fighting each other, and who do you make an early favourite?
You know what, I've never really watched a lot of Dan AZEEZ, and I've seen a lot of Joshua BUATSI from the Olympics. I've had people spar him. So, you know, just on that and the opposition they fought, when you think that BUATSI's boxed Craig Richards, which is a very awkward custom, and come good late on his career, and AZEEZ has boxed Shakan Pitters, I'd think that BUATSI's had the tougher tests. So I'd have to tend to favour BUATSI in that fight. But as with most things, you never know. And I think they were both offered the Bivol fight, and both turned it down to fight each other. And I think in one way it's good, because it's two British fighters, you know, levelling off to see who's the better one to move on. And back in the day, in order to get a world title fight, you had to win the British, you had to win the European. In Britain, before you got a world title shot, back in the days of Henry Cooper, and you know, even 20 years ago, you had to do that. Now you can actually get a world title shot without even being a British champion or a European champion. Junior Witter did it against Zab Judah. There's people getting offered world title shots without going through the method of, you know, clearing up domestically. And are you good enough at that level to move on? So, but from a business point of view, depending what the money was, what the process seems to be these days, take the biggest fight for the most money you can, because the loser of this fight is going to find it difficult to move up the ladder and earn more money. So you have to work the potential that way. Where's it going to leave them financially? Because you should be getting a lot more money for a world title fight than you are for a British, and that's what you've got to kind of, you know, weigh up. So, you know, we'll see. One person's going to move on to bigger fights. Personally, I don't think either of them have got the beating of Bivol. So, you know, unless they were getting offered 10 times more money than they are now, maybe it makes sense. You know, the fight makes sense. So we'll have to wait for that one.
Another fight, it's on a different card. FRAZER Clarke, Dave Allen, and I'm shout out FRAZER Clarke because he just told me before he watches all your interviews, he enjoys listening to your thoughts. He's fighting Dave Allen. Dave, who you've trained before, he's been in this gym. I think he started a lot of his early career here as well. What do you make of that fight? There's obviously different opinions. People are suggesting that, you know, FRAZER's not been tested, and people are criticising his performance mainly in the later rounds. And then obviously with Dave, people are saying, you know, is he going to be fit enough? Is he going to be good enough still after, you know, so much inactivity, etc.? From your experience, how do you see that fight unfolding, and what do you think of the actual matchup?
I mean, Fraser probably won't thank me for this comment, but I don't think Fraser's really had the fear of God put into him with opponents. You know, when you first start your career off, and he's only had a handful of fights. What's he had, 5 or 6?
I think 8 or 9. I think.
All right, well, he's less than 10. He's less than 10. And you know, as a prospect, you know, in the first 10 fights, you're never really going to be thrown in at the deep end. It's kind of a learning curve. And subconsciously, you know, some people just train enough to beat who's in front of them. And I know he's had a lot of change of opponents last minute, which kind of can offset you, and you can get a bit disheartened, and there's lots of factors. I've seen it all, but I think FRAZER Clarke now against the best version of Dave Allen, which is not now, he would have struggled to beat him, because Dave Allen, as a cagey fighter, he's just got this natural ability to get into a fight without actually training. I trained him for Dillian White, and I could tell when I trained him for Dillian White, he'd never really trained properly as a boxer. Never really committed himself. He got through on ability, Just being able to dig in, being at it a long time from being a kid. I had him in here when he was a kid, from like 14 years old. But I don't think Dave Allen ever reached his potential. I think he went in fights on a wing and a prayer. I think he got a lot further in his career, and he took fights what he should never have taken. And that's kind of worked against him. I don't think he's the best version of himself now. I think he's way past his best. And on that fight, I think that, it's going to be a test for Fraser in the sense there's a lot of experience coming with Dave Allen. And Dave Allen's got nothing to lose, where Fraser's has got a lot to lose. He's on the kind of start of his professional career. So I think that's going to, ramp him up and put the fear of God into him, and he's got to win. And we're going to find out a lot about Frazer Clarke in this next fight, because he does need to make a statement. Because if Dave Allen can see any chink in his armour, he will definitely capitalise on it for the short period of time. He will be able to do that, because it won't be for a lot. It won't be for a lot of time. He's got a window of opportunity, Dave Allen, to unsettle Fraser. A very, very short window of opportunity, first 6 rounds. And if he's not done it by then, he's not going to do it. So it's an interesting fight. I'm glad that Dave's got a chance, and who knows, but I think that Fraser's got less wear and tear than Dave, and I think that's what's going to be the decider.
Interesting. And a last question, Dom, is there any fights that you're looking forward to? Any fights are scheduled?
Not really. There's not much on the horizon. Name me a few fights that I should be looking forward to.
Obviously, it's not official, but obviously AJ Wilder potentially. There's Fury and Garnu.
Sorry, who?
Fury and the MMA guy in October.
Not really. I'll tell you what I am looking forward to. Warrington and Lee Wood. That's...
How'd you see that? Because obviously you got a brilliant insight into both fighters. Break it down for me.
I hope Lee Wood wins, and I think he will win. And that's not, people think I've got a dislike for Josh Warrington. I haven't got a dislike for Josh Warrington at all. Everybody has the peaks and troughs in boxing, and everybody has their prime. And Lee Wood's obviously in his prime at this moment in time. And he's been there. Warrington, he's been at the top, and he's just coming down the other side of the hill from being at the top, where Lee Wood's, at his peak, at this late stage in his career, he's on a roll. And so I think Lee Wood's going to edge it. But you never know, because sometimes Lee Wood can be a bit, you look at his performance against Jazza Dickens, and then all the performances after Jazza Dickens were great. So, I think Lee Wood's going to win the fight, purely because, once again, he's had less mileage on the clock, and Warrington's been in some hard fights. And once fighters like Josh Warrington start to lose, it's kind of, for me, the way he fights is the signal that he's just over and past his best. So, we'll see. It's an interesting fight. That's one I'm looking forward to.
I've got an intriguing question for you on Lee Wood. Lee Wood obviously left this gym around the same time as you had like a young crop of fighters. Like you had Lee Wood, you had Atif Shafiq, you had Jordan Gill, Samo Mason. There might be another one or two missing. What separated Lee Wood from being the one out of all of that mix to be the most successful?
Well, Lee Wood was a good amateur. He was on the GB squad. And look, Lee Wood's style hasn't changed since leaving this gym. What's happened with Lee Wood is he's just become more mature. He could always fight, he could always punch. What was really letting him down was the mental side of his game. But what happens in boxing is, it happened with Johnny Nelson. You're young, you're 25, you're 26, you think you've got all the time in the world. And you're flying around, you're probably not doing everything you should be doing, and you're winning fights. Then you get caught out, and you have to start making assessments and readjustments. And as you get older and you realise you're getting past 30 and your career's coming to the end, it's a kind of do or die situation. I think we had this conversation when Lee came up against Conlon. And I'm not sure if I said it in this interview, but my belief was that he was always going to beat Conlon because Lee would have got a lot more experience. I didn't particularly rate Conlon anyway. And I thought Lee Wood is going to be a very, very difficult person to beat in Nottingham after what's gone on in his career. And in the first 2 rounds when he was down, just by the sheer fact he got up and dug in, I could tell from then he wasn't going to get beat. And he stuck and he stuck and he stuck, and then he finished off Conlon. So you can almost see Lee Wood thinking, if I don't do it now, I'm never going to do it. I've got no more headroom. I've got no room for error. I'm not 25, 26 when I can come back from it. I'm in my 30s now. I've got to start, you know, do or die situations. And that's what he did. And that's why he's turned himself around. Atif Shafiq, lovely kid. He should never have been a boxer because he's a very educated person. But some people have this bug for wanting to be a fighter. And he went through the process. You know, he would have been a British titleist at best. Luckily now, unfortunately, he's used his ability and his brains, and he's into teaching kids, and he's doing really well out of it. Samuel Mason had left a long time ago, about 2014. He went. Jordan Gill, obviously, he's had a bit of an up and down career. So what separates Lee Wood? Just, you know, sticking with it. And he'd already got the tools and the potential from way back. You know, all those guys you've mentioned, he was better schooled from an early age and better experience, and you know, that's why he's turned out to where he's turned out to be now.
Interesting stuff. Dom, thank you very much for your time, and hopefully we'll catch you soon when the next big news drops in boxing.
Perfect.